All right, so good evening, everyone. Nice to have you in class. So we're gonna proceed and send the recording to the others. Tonight, we're gonna be talking about troubleshooting. A quick review, we have discussed about how you introduce yourself, you know, when it comes to the question, tell us about yourself. Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. And we have also discussed projects, describing your environment. And key points we spoke about that is not talk about patching. Also, we included the fact that talk about backups. When we describe your environment, we spoke about cumulative and full backups. We said full backups run on Fridays, which backups everything. While cumulative backups, these are backups that backs up only things that have changed from the previous or the last full backup. Are we clear up to this point?
Can you say that again, Prof, please?
We said full backup runs mostly on Fridays, and full backup means backing up everything from /root upwards, while cumulative backup that backs up only things that have changed from the previous backup. So, for example, if you log in on Monday and you create a user, it's user John, and a cumulative backup runs on Wednesdays, it's going to back up a password because a new user has been created. If next week comes, you did not create any other user, and cumulative backup runs on Wednesday, it's not going to back up a password because nothing has changed there. So cumulative means it backs up only changes that have been made. While full backup, whether you make change or you don't make change, it backs up everything, the whole server. So full backups are very useful when we come to rebuilding server. So let's say server 1 crashes for some reason. We can just go back and check what was the last full backup for server 1. And when we build the new server, we now copy everything from the backup. For example, we'll copy its password, copy /up, and we move those directories to the new server, and it becomes that server has been replaced. Does that make sense, Eunice?
Yes.
So when you're having these conversations and they bring up backup topics, tell them about full backup, you know what it means, you know the day it is performed. Tell them about cumulative, you know what it means, you know the day it is performed. So we say full backup Friday, cumulative Wednesdays, and explain that this is how our environment. And we said most environment, they focus on production. Why do we focus on backing up? Before I ask that question, what's the importance of backup? What do you think we do create backups? In case
a server breakdown and there's a mistake in the system, then you can go back to the old.
Perfect. In case the catastrophe, it could be fire, it could be disaster, in case of anything. So now within the three environments, dev, test, and prod, which one do you think we should not joke with the backup? Which one is most important?
Prod.
The prod. Good. So whenever you're discussing this backup, always emphasize that our emphasis is on the prod environment because of its importance. Test, we can back up when we want. Dev, the same thing. When we come to prod, we don't joke. Make sure that the schedule is kept Friday full, Wednesday cumulative. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. So we said when you're discussing your environment, always make sure you include the three environments, the characteristics. For example, dev is for everyone, test is for everyone, but with read-only access, while production is only for admins. We also said discuss patching when these environments are patched, and we also said discuss backups. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now we move to project also. We said we discussed our topics that we have covered and how we can create projects from them. And we said the formula is whenever you have to discuss a project or any of these topics, make sure you create a problem, provide a solution, suggested solution, and steps to implement that solution. So that's the approach we are using. So in any of the topics you want to discuss, let's say we say Nagios. What was the problem? In this our current environment in dynamic tech, we had one of our clients that had no monitoring tool, which means they were logging in and checking disk space manually. So you need to log in, do df-h, you see disk space, you log into server 2, log into server 3. That way you have to log into 50 servers to run disk space. Does that make sense? So that was time consuming, and I introduced the fact that we can set up a monitoring tool called Nagios and log in all the clients and the hosts. That way, on a single dashboard, we can see everybody by just looking at the color distinctions. Green means healthy, yellow means attention, amber, which is red, means emergency, critical. Does that make sense? So this was approved, and then I was in charge of that project. I built Nagios from scratch, and we finally have a monitoring tool, which we can now monitor the whole environment, both dev, test, and prod, just from a single dashboard. I'm very proficient with using Nagios, set up users, create independent dashboards, set users with restrictions. For example, users that can only read, they cannot make changes, templates, and run reports. For example, if they need monthly reports of uptime, servers that have been up and servers that have had issues, we can run a report and give those reports on monthly basis. Is that clear?
Yes.
Good. So if you're discussing Nagios, for example, those are the things you must cover. Now, if we say LVM, we want to talk about LVM as a project. We say create a problem. So what kind of problem do we bring up in terms, for example, in LVM? We said, we had this situation in one of our clients with Dynamic Tech, and most of their servers were poorly built, which means that they did not partition the mount point separately. For example, /tem was not separated. Everything was running under /root. So these systems were easily being filled up and could not go through when auditors always come in, because we have auditors that come in twice a year. These are auditors sent by the government, to make sure every system is in compliance according to government regulations. And so this system were always failing audit because they were poorly configured. So I suggested that we can add an external disk, or we can add another hard drive and partition this hard drive such that we can now create this mount point that are missing. For example, /tem was missing, var/tem was missing, /up was missing. These are compulsory var audit logs missing. These are compulsory file systems that auditors need to see that they exist on the system before they can go through a successful audit. So this was approved, and I was responsible for this project. Purchase was made, hard disks were bought, and I had to insert these hard disks and build these systems and convert them to logical volumes. These are the steps that are involved. From when you insert the disk into the system, you make sure that you initialize this disk. Now run the fdisk command is what I use to run this against this device name. Let's say, for example, /dev/sdc. With this, I now make sure that I change the label to E8, so that, because I'm creating logical volumes. And then I now run my partitions and make sure that I create after initialization is completed, I save, I quit, and now make sure I create my physical volumes, by using the pv create command. I create my logical volumes, a volume group using my vg create command, and then set up my logical volumes, and then now create my mount points and run this against the mount point, and all of that is set up with regards to logical volume. Krista, you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask something that you can still, like, creating a volume or do an LVM, you can still skip the PV create and just do the VG create, which is gonna automatically create the PV create, right?
No, I've never done that. Are you sure?
Yes.
You do VG create and PV create will be created automatically?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've never done that. So if you've done that, good or fine. So you explain now. If you notice, I'm explaining high level. I'm not going, VG create -L. I'm just giving the commands. Now, if they're interested, they now come and say, you spoke about logical volumes. Which command precisely will you use in creating volume group? That's when now you can go. But when you're explaining, stay high level, but mention logical volume is important. Mention those VG create, LV create commands. Make sense?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's how you create a problem, the solution, and the steps when it comes to logical volume. And then we spoke about NFS. Which topic do you think those of you who are currently present we should discuss project with. We have done Nagios, we have done LVM. Last week we did what?
I would say NFS repository. We have done LVM, which is very important.
We have done NFS, right?
Yes.
Yeah, NFS, yes.
Okay, we did patching last week too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Patching
we did.
as well.
So those are very important. Those are your priorities that you want to start with this fall, because there's nothing wrong in explaining too. After you finish it,
I'm gonna take this one that you just explained. I think I like it the way you put it. It's
I can explain
nice.
it more again, so you better understand
it's
it.
really nice.
Logical volume is a big topic. Don't go without you using that to sell yourself. Patching is a big topic. Nagios is a big topic. NFS is superb. So those are the approach you guys should use, working around those. And passwordless authentication is a very big thing too. A good problem is we had these systems that whenever we, these cron jobs that they always fail because, it is required that someone should be present to enter the password. For example, if we have to move files from one server to the other. So I suggested that we create a passwordless user. To create a password user, you use the SSH key gene, and then you run the SSH-copy-ID command that moves. So those are just easy things, but which are very important when you bring them up during interview preps. So these are the things this is one part of interview questions that we say they're going to ask you about projects. The email I sent, those are direct questions. They'll ask you which command to check this space, how will you check CPU, how will you check memory. I've been to an interview within this year, 2023, they asked me command to create a file. I said, I wish I can bring Christelle here.
I'll just stay in touch.
You'll be shocked. No, that's not what you should say. That would be means you're saying you're using the question and answer approach. But we said you always make sentences and go more, because you don't know only about touch. So
you can create, you can do more to create, like maybe just create VI into this thing in your file, which is gonna create a
good. So the second way interviews is you want to leave the interview, let it sound that you, the candidate, did more of the talking. So they ask you that simple question, you make a sentence instead. You tell them, thank you for asking me this question. Every question you're thanking them, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. When there are several commands I can use to create a file in Linux. With my 6 years of experience, there's a lot of scenarios I've created files. I can either use the touch command or I can use the VI command. When you create the command with touch, it gives you advantage because you can create multiple files at the same time. The VI command will create a file and put you into VI mode, and then you can, all of that will create a file. Thank you very much. You see, instead of me just saying touch, I expatiated, and they know that this candidate, they will live with the impression that this candidate spoke a lot during the interview, and that's what we want to do. Does that make sense? Yes. So that's an example. So which other topic do you guys think we should discuss projects? If not, we can move to troubleshooting. So we have done
cron jobs, automation.
We'll do Ansible. We're gonna study Ansible. So Ansible will replace cron jobs.
We can talk about Grub and what is it? Booting.
Bootstrapping.
Yeah, bootstrapping.
No, correct. Bootstrapping on its own always come as an interview question. It doesn't come mostly as a project. But if you want to use it as a project, you can say we have this scenario whereby this server that could not boot up, whenever it's power off to power on, it always has an issue. So I had to troubleshoot it to look, but we'll discuss that during troubleshooting. But bootstrapping usually come where they will ask you that explain, for example, they'll say, Mr. Israel, can you explain the process that happened on a Linux server from when you power it on until when you log in? When that question comes up, you know, you say, thank you for giving me this opportunity. There are many scenarios whereby I've powered Linux servers, and this process is referred to as bootstrapping. You know, you are using the term that they choose not to use because they know if they mention bootstrapping, it may give you a recall of what they're referring to. So by just you mentioning that terminology, know that you understand, and then you now start explaining the post, which is power on self-test, comes up and then picks up the, you know, the multiple matricle and then send the scripts. So explain all of those steps of bootstrapping right up to the end. So bootstrapping actually comes as a question on its own. You don't need to be, you can explain bootstrapping also as a process of setting up not the uh the kernel password. How did we put that?
You said the kernel password, the grub password?
The grub password. So this talking about the grub password is very important as a security measure. So yes, bootstrapping can also come on that aspect. So I'd like us to focus on these projects next week on Sundays. When we come, our first 30 minutes will be, you know, you guys talking to me. Let me have an understanding of your project. So everybody should choose two or three projects, you know, write down the summary, short notes so that you can look through them and tell us which projects are your favorite, which you're going to handle. You create a problem, solution, and the steps, high level. That way, so that we know we are working and we're on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Now,
first
like
30 minutes, like next class, we're talking.
Yes, next class. First 30 minutes, you're talking. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And the other 30 minutes, I'm teaching.
Okay.
So tonight, we're going to talk about troubleshooting. You know, troubleshooting is a very big topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in many diverse forms. In all these topics, the whole course in Linux, troubleshooting comes covered. And the way they have modernized it is the fact that they create a scenario. They tell you a student, whether someone could log in yesterday and today they can't log in. How we use that. And troubleshooting has no formula. However, your concept, your style that you are going to present to them should be persuasive, should look intelligent, should make sense. Does that understood?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you bring 3 engineers and you sit them all in front of a panel, and you ask them to talk about troubleshooting and let them not hear from each other, you're gonna get 3 different perspectives. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So no environment is the same. Nobody expects you to mirror what they know, but let what you know make sense to them. Are we talking?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
good. So how do we troubleshoot? So we're gonna discuss troubleshooting as server access. So you can't log into a server. That's the bread and butter of troubleshooting. You'll be shocked to meet server scenarios at work. Majority of the time, I'm trying to log in, I can't reach this IP. What's going on? Database guys, they will call you. Cyber security guys, they will call you. Program manager, everybody, you are the system admin. You know, they want to log into your server, the server you build, the server that you are the custodian, they can't log in. So the first thing is you. So how will you start that troubleshooting scenario is very important. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Second aspect is network connectivity, which is almost very close to the first one, because if you can't log into a server remotely, the only way we log in is through network, correct?
Correct.
Good. So we're going to dive deep a little bit about networking, but we are not network engineers. Network engineers, for example, if the network for the whole company is down, it's not my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
My servers are just hooked up to the network, but the network guys have to bring up the network first, and then I can hook up my servers and work continues. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about network connectivity and then application servers. So after a server is running, you now build an HTTP application, which is, let's say, Apache, and is running on a repository like repo. If that repo is not running, for example, you want to install a package and you do yum yum install mmap, and that package is not running. The issue is not with that server, correct? That server is running, people can log into that server. The issue is now with that repository which you want to work with. So there are many times when you build an application, for example, if Facebook is running on a server and Facebook, we can't log in online. The problem is not with the server. The server is online, the server is working, we can log into the server, but the application called Facebook is power off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's a different level of troubleshooting now. How do you troubleshoot an application that is running on the server? It's different from troubleshooting the server itself. So those are the three categories of troubleshooting, which we are going to discuss. And then I'll look for that note. I saw it last week, I kept it for some reason, and then I'll send that out. And we'll also go through it and explain vividly. You see all the approaches, how to discuss troubleshooting. But as I said, it is in these three domains: server access, connectivity, and troubleshooting an application. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's begin with server access. Now, it is very important. Now, the only reason your server you built is useful is because people can log in. And these are people who you have given them access by creating the username and giving them password. Is that correct? Now, let's mention an application called LDAP. LDAP stands for Lightweight Directory
Access Protocol.
Access Protocol. Good jobs, Isha. Let me put that on the chat. LDAP.
Please, can you enable the host to community share?
You want to share something?
No,
Huh?
sorry.
Yeah, I just enable you. You can share now. What do you want to share, Ash Engine?
No, Prof, I was trying to create a folder for my interviews so that way I don't mix things.
Oh, so you want to share that?
No, it's
Okay.
what you've been teaching.
Lightweight directory. Access. Oh. So LDAP, since we are talking about creating users, and LDAP is an application that helps with authentication. LDAP helps with authentication, which means logging into servers. So, for example, let's say we have an environment with 250 servers, and Christelle and Eunice are the system admin, and we have a new employee, a new system admin, Israel, that has just come, who has been employed. And they said, Ms. Christelle, they sent out an email, can you create access to Mr. Israel? In an environment without LDAP, Christelle would need to log into every server, all the 250 servers, and create Mr. Israel a username and a password. Is that correct?
Yes.
So to make life easy, most servers, or most environments, or most companies have built an LDAP server. With an LDAP server present in your environment, all what you need to do is to create, everybody has username and password only to the LDAP server, which is the LDAP master. And all the other servers have the LDAP clients installed on them. So when you want to log into server A, you enter the IP address, you open your PORI, you enter the IP address to server A. Let's say the LDAP server is called server A, and that's where they create everybody's account. For example, we created for Eunice. So Eunice wants to log into server Z. Eunice is going to take the IP address for server Z, enter it on her PORI, put the username, put the password, and hit enter. That request is it's not going to go to server Z. It's going to query the LDAP server because that's the master login server for the environment. Now, when it queries the master server, it's going to see that Eunice has an account there, the LDAP, and Eunice has a password. LDAP now will now query that request to server Z and log in Eunice to server Z. So Eunice has the capability to log into server Z, But if you go to Server Z and can't see password, you're not gonna see Eunice username there. Does
So
that
the
make sense?
LDAP gives you the opportunity to be able to log into the multiple servers without physically having.
Perfect. So the LDAP cuts that stress of creating hundreds of accounts on all 250 servers.
Mhm.
So we deal with only the master for everybody, and the LDAP will automatically authenticate you to the other clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they may ask you, what's your experience with LDAP? Simple. Yes, I work in an environment where we use LDAP for authentication. It helps us to create accounts only on the LDAP master, and that way it will log in every user to every other server when it wants to log in. Full stop. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So when it comes to LDAP, that's all what you need to talk about. That's all what you need to be able to explain what it does. Highest troubleshooting is most users will come up and say, you know, for example, we're in a meeting today and they said, okay, Ms. Eunice, you are asking for access to this application. Yeah, we're going to grant you access. And next tomorrow, Eunice is sending an email and saying, I'm trying to log into this server. I don't have access. They just promise you that they're going to give you access to something that it has been approved.
Mhm.
So you'll have users that will reach out to you that, hey, we are trying to log in, but we don't have access. The first thing you want to find out, especially people that are logging in you have never heard this user log into the system, is coming for the first time. You want to find out, first of all, has she been granted access? Does she have access? Sometimes it's having a conversation with them. Is this your first time? And you'll be surprised to hear, oh, yes, this is my first time. I've never logged in. That gives you a whole clue. Number one, this one maybe have not even been approved. Number two, maybe they have not even created her a username. So you have to check all those part of it before you can even start. So there are situations you dive and start troubleshooting, looking at the password. Meanwhile, that user doesn't even have approval yet. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So these are all conversations you should have when it comes to questions about server access. Now, well, majority of the issues when it comes to server access is that, number one, this internet is down, either on your side or on the client side. Whoever is opening up a ticket. What's the ticketing tool we use? Ticketing tool. At Dynamic Tech, what do we use? Have we ever heard the word ticketing tool? All right, I'm gonna put you on the chat. Let me hear if you guys have heard about that before now. What do you see on the chat?
Service now.
ServiceNow.
Are you familiar with that name?
No.
No.
All right. It's on your resumes. For those of you who will be having your resumes this week, that's the ticketing tool. See ServiceNow and Remedy. Write that down, please.
Doing that.
I know that's important. I saw something already when I was looking at something.
So these are tools whereby I'm sure some of you have at your job. If you have an issue with a machine or something is broken, you go fill this form so that maintenance can come in and fix it. Anything like that at your jobs? Eunice?
Yeah.
Something, or sometimes
I have an IT guy that just come out.
How does he get the information that something is broken before he comes out? Phone call?
Yeah, we tell the manager and she calls them.
Oh, okay. So in that case, there's no ticketing tool. How about you, Israel? Any experience with a situation whereby if something is broken, you need something, you go fill a form?
No, not for me.
All right. So ticketing tool are used, for example, a server is down, a user cannot log in, they say open a ticket. So you log in. So I'm gonna send a link on ServiceNow and on YouTube. If you watch it, you will give you a good clue. we are not responsible to set it up, but we need to be able to know how to use it. You know, just mentioning that you're familiar with it's very easy. You know, we don't use it because we are the ones that fix it, but they give us access because those who need issues to be fixed, when they create those tickets, it comes to us through email. So you see a ticket pop on your email from ServiceNow, you say user trying to log in. This is the username, this is the server name. Does that make sense? So whenever you hear about ticketing tool, they're referring to those them hundreds of them. These Indian guys just write them like every 2 days. Ones that are free. So ServiceNow and Remedy are the most frequently used in the market. Very popular. So we are very familiar with that. And so you will receive requests with on ServiceNow regard to access and how do you user trying to log into a server. So a scenario that they usually build is, imagine a user trying to log in and they send you a ticket on Remedy and they said they cannot access the server. How will you approach that situation as a Linux admin? Does that make sense? So that's what we want to handle tonight. Access level, how do I troubleshoot? So as a rule of thumb, this is your opening statement. One of the tricks I've built one of my how can I put it? I don't want to say my trick. My rule of thumb I've used most of these years as a Linux system admin is making sure that I experience the scenario firsthand, which means that if a user call me and they say they cannot log into this server, I first of all try to log into the server myself. Let me not be able to log into the server also, and then I can now conclude, oh yes, there's something wrong. Rather than a user just calling you, I can't log into server 2, and the first thing is you dive in, you're troubleshooting what's going on with server 2. Does that make sense? So when it comes to troubleshooting, your opening statement is that I don't just run into resolving issues without experiencing them firsthand myself. So no matter the scenario, when I have issues with users, I make sure I log into that system. Be it access level or server issue or application, I try to experience that issue firsthand. So in this scenario, whereby a user is not able to log into a server, first thing I'll do is to try to log in to that server myself. Does that make sense? Now, if I'm successful to log into that server, that narrows down my thought pattern on which approach should I use. Are we following? So if I'm successful to log in, okay, good. That tells me that this server is up on the network and is working. So that brings me to the part that the issue is coming up from the user's end. Are we communicating? On that case, I need to reach out to the user now, either by phone or by email, and say, can you please check your network connectivity? How do we check network connectivity? Remember, you are in Washington, D.C., or maybe you are even remote. So you are in New York. User is calling from California. Your data center is in Washington, D.C. Can you guys imagine that picture, correct? You're all scattered from the globe. So you can log into that server, which is in Washington. User in California is saying they can't log in. You have checked on your end is fine. So next thing is, user, can you check on your end? Now you can be dealing with a user who is a secretary. They know nothing about connectivity. Don't even tell them to ping. What do you mean by ping? What am I pinking here? So you have to look for what can she do to tell you as a system admin that on her end, she has network connectivity. Can you please open up a browser, see if you can access Google? You know, don't call Facebook. Most government computers don't access Facebook. Can you please open any web page? Can you check the news? Can you open a page and see if that page has come up? Can you, you can call one of your job sites. Can you open, now the job site can open if she's logging to VPN. So you want to find out network on that end. So first thing is, can you open Google? Now Google is easy and safe for every government web application, or Microsoft Edge. Do we get this point?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if user checks that and see that, yes, Google can open, that tells you that the network is good. So what is the next thing? Now, because she's remote, which means she's not in the office, then what needs to give her access to office network is VPN.
VPN.
So that's your next guess. Are you logging to the VPN? That's when the head will scream, oh my gosh, I forgot. And then to log into VPN and that will resolve that scenario. However, so that's scenario one. How about if she checks and her internet is down? You're in New York, she's in California. There's nothing you can, you're not her provider. So simply, please make sure, look for a way and get back your internet connection. That's the issue. If your internet comes back up, no, give me a call and we should be able to look through this. But I think that should resolve the issue. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, bro.
Now, the second part of this scenario is, how about if you, after the user reported, I can't log into the server, and you try to log into the server as per your rule of thumb, must make sure you experience the scenario, and you too cannot log in. So now we are experiencing scenario two. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, in this scenario where you cannot log into that server, that's where it gives you a bigger picture now. The first thing you want to do is you want to check other servers on the data center. So let's say this server was server 8. You want to check, is server 9. Can I log into server 9? Can I log into server 7? Does that make sense? Now, if you succeed to log into server 9 or server 7, that tells you that, oh, this problem is unique to this server 8 alone. However, if you try to log into server 7, is server 7, you cannot log in. Server 9, you cannot log in. It tells you this is a bigger network issue because more than one server is down. Are we following?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
bro.
So,
Yes.
so this is scenario. This is troubleshooting scenarios. It's not, there's no formula, but you must explain something that makes sense to them. You have checked this server, it's not up. You have checked another server, but they are up. So it means only this server is down. Now, what is my next step? I need to ping the IP address for this server. So now you ping the IP of the server that is down, and you see that the output is telling you that 10 package sent, 0 receive. What does that help you to conclude?
It's a network problem.
Yeah, you
It's
can't
not receiving connection.
Yeah, not receiving connection through that IP. That tells you that that server is down, correct? That server is not on the network. Good. Now, remember you are in New York. Client is in California. Server is in Washington, D.C. Nobody can reach. However, in those scenarios, there's somebody always at the data center 24/7. As a system engineer, your next option is to be able to reach out to someone to check Ethernet cable, which means is the network connectivity at the back of the server. Do we remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
99.99% with my experience at work, that is usually the issue. Some, a lot of people come into data centers to do the maintenance work. There are people who come in to fix the floor. There are people who come in to fix air condition. So they move machines, they move things, they move racks around. Someone may have pulled that cable and disconnect that particular server from connectivity. Because as we said, every server at the data center has an Ethernet cable on its own, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that if they move this one cable, 4 servers are going to go down. No, if they move that one cable, only that server goes down. So somebody can mistakenly just shake that cable and there's a little disconnect, and that brings down that server. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So your explanation is you're explaining these two ways. Remember, they ask you a simple question. If this user has called, they cannot log in. You're gonna explain scenario whereby you test and see that that system is not logged. That server is up. You can log in. You ask the user to check from her end if there's connectivity. You're gonna come and say, however, let's look into this other scenario. If myself I can log in, I cannot log into that server. That gives me two options. I'll also check other servers on that network to see whether they are connected or not. If they are connected, that leads me to the idea that it must be an issue that is unique, particular to this server. And on that scenario, I'm left to check just the Ethernet connectivity. And if I'm not around the data center to walk into it, I may have to place a call for someone to go in and check the back end of that cable connectivity to make sure that is set up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Prof.
Next week, we're going to go into another level of troubleshooting this same issue with server access, whereby you don't need to be physically present. You can remotely from New York power on that server. Now, that all depends how that server was built using options like Idra. I'm going to put in the chat. Used for powering on servers remotely. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prof.
So if you go to Google, and Google Idra, you have a good write-up about that. Let's check that. Am I sharing my screen?
No, Prof.
All right, let me share my screen. Idra Dell. It is made from Dell. Let me see. So I just want us to touch base about that, but we're gonna discuss it next time. So Idra stands for integrated. Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Integrated Dell Remote Access Controller. Integrated Dell Remote Access Controller. The integrated Dell Remote Access Controller is designed for secure local and remote server management and helps IT administration deploy, update, and monitor. Let's read through. Update, monitor, power edge servers anywhere, anytime. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it is simple. When you build a server, you now install this package. It usually comes with servers that are manufactured by IBM. So you can be having a conversation and they ask you what kind of hardwares. I think we had Hannah sharing that with us last week. What hardwares have you worked with? What hardware servers? IBM, HP, Solaris, and Solaris. Yes. What else again? I think those are the most frequent. And Dell. So you have it on your resume where it says hardware. Now you can go further by saying one of the reasons I love Dell devices is because of the availability to use Idra.
Yep.
Idra is used to power on servers from any remote direction. So after building the servers, you log into those servers. So those servers, when you set up Idra, they have two IP addresses. One IP address is what we use to log into the server. The other IP address is for Idra. So when the server is down, you just open the browser like this, and you enter the IP address.
The IP address.
/IBM, and then you hit enter, and it logs you into that server, and then you can say power on or power off, and that server can come back up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's just shallow, so you know and you understand what it is. So in your conversation, you can now say, however, all of these especially if I have to send someone at the data center, is depending how the server was configured. If it is an IBM machine, it's a Dell machine that uses Idra, I can power on the server myself from remote direction. So it all depends. Idra is used for remote controlling servers from any area of the world. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So Idra is one of them. Another one is LDOM. I'm gonna put it on the chart. Where's my chart this thing? Okay. LDOM. So let's check LDOM also. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
LDOM. Sun Solaris. That's the manufacturer. LDOM Sun Solaris. So what does LDOM do? I thought I saw that question. LDOM specifies one or more running logical domains to stop. This subcommand panic the storage OS on a specific logic domain which provides a backtrace and flash dump. What's this? Overview of logical domain software. So guys, we're sorry, LDOM console. We're running up soon. So LDOM is particular to Solaris alone. And Solaris, you remember Solaris under Unix, correct? Can we remember that? Excuse me. So don't worry about LDOM. Just have it written down, know that it does exist in case of anything. Idra is more important to bring out when you discuss about setting up server. So that's the scenario-based equation when it comes to server access. A user was able to log in yesterday, and today they came up and they said they can't log in. How do you troubleshoot that? Connectivity is the issue. You try to make sure you log in by yourself. Don't just conclude from what they tell you. You experience the thing, and then you start having that conversation.
Yes.
Any question?
Prof, don't they have network guys in case of this network issue? Don't they handle the network issue?
Now, in
I will
case
pass it on to the network guy.
Tell me again. I didn't hear you, Eunice.
Oh, I said one of my answer would be I'll pass it on to the network guy. I was just joking.
So in case you try logging to server 2 and server 2 is down, like, you now need to log into server 3, as I said. If server 3 is down and try logging to server 1 is down, then that's a bigger issue. That's when you move to network. Because you want to log into many other servers, you see that you may even realize the whole data center is down. That's not more your business, that's above your level now.
We call the network guys.
They are the ones responsible to bring network into the data center. You are concerned with network when it's on the server. So if network cannot reach the server, that's not your business. When it hits the server, you can log in. Oh, that's when you take it off from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prof.
So this user cannot log in. I myself, system admin, I cannot log in. So network guys, now is you coming. So that's when you bring them. But if you can log into the server, it is your responsibility now to, troubleshoot. Okay, now you can now say, I can log in. The user cannot log in. Now you go deeper. Maybe I need to now check it's a password. Does this user have a username created already? So it is your responsibility. It's a whole conversation. Call the user on the phone. At the work, we have everybody's phone call is available. Call on the phone and, I need to ask you some few questions to better understand what you're going through. Have you ever logged into this server? You'll be shocked to hear that it was my first time.
Then you need to create a user.
It is
Yeah.
you that need to create a user for them.
Yeah, then I need to add him to the system. Yeah. Him
Good.
or her.
Will you just add them there now?
No,
No, you get
we have to ask
permission to upper
permission from the
management.
upper management.
Perfect. So you now need to ask authorization, and it is not you. So you tell them, please, can you go get authorization? Or shall I find out from my manager if you have been authorized to have access to that server? How about you say yes? I was successful. I logged in yesterday. That's a different scenario, right?
Then I will go to the SC
Password.
to
Yeah.
see if they are there. If they are not there, then I still have to send her back to go ask for
She
authorization.
logged in yesterday, so it must be there.
Oh, she logged in yesterday.
So it could be a password expire. That's the
Oh yes,
expire.
that's true.
So you see, that's how you are. I'm telling you, you can easily forget these things.
Oh,
That
they don't
is
remember
true,
their
yeah.
password.
They need to reset their password. True.
Perfect. So that's how. So that's their troubleshooting scenario. You have built from when they could not even log in. Now they could log in. You too, you can log in. She was successful yesterday. So the next thing, it leaves you with password expiration.
Yes, that's true.
And now you now check on password expiration. You see that okay, your password expired, and you set that up, and that's it. So when it comes to server login, those are the scenarios you work with. So all what you need to do is listen to this recording, write down short summaries.
Prof, can I ask a question? When they log into the system for the first time, I think they always have a warning, right? That you need to change your password.
Correct, if that has been set up.
Yeah, because I think they should have that.
Yeah, some people ignore that warning and they keep going until it expires.
That's me. I do that. Right.
That's Eunice.
Yes.
And then you go and call IT.
Yes.
So those are things that happen and all what you need to do is just go type password space username.
Yes.
You set them a new password and you send it to them.
You still tell them to still change it because they still need to change it on their
Of course, you make that setting.
Yes.
How do you do that?
It's
You
a lot of there.
Good. So when she logs in the first time, tell you now you need to change your password.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where we're gonna end tonight. Next week we're gonna do network connectivity and application.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna send a document that will also explain other troubleshooting scenarios this same way. You could log in and yet you could not log in. How the two ways that you follow. I'll need to explain that document. It looks a little bit complicated, but when you have it and you go through. So that prepares you guys for a lot of interviews.
This was productive class.
You guys are good to go for interviews as a system engineers while we are building on AWS. So yeah, those of you requesting resumes, you have it this week by Friday. When I send it, maybe by Wednesday, go through it, master it, schedule a time, let's go through it so that you can point those things that you don't understand or you need more explanation. We can handle that so that by what's the date of today?
Today's the
17th.
17th.
So by the ending of September, your resume should be up and you're interviewing. Okay?
Okay.
Yes.
Interview the whole of October because they hire October, they hire November. December, it starts going down because people are preparing for Christmas. So let's take that 2 months and get on interviews, okay?
Okay, Prof.
Any questions?
Mm-hmm.
If there are no questions, keep working on your AWS. We need to build those skills too. And Israel, make sure you join those groups and study groups. And you guys always begin with projects or tell me about yourself. Do some talking.
That's what we do.
Is the most important thing now. You guys are all skilled. Everybody can build a server. Everybody can do NFS, all the projects we have it recorded. Now it's talking and talking and talking. If you're studying for 2 hours, talk for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Any other question before I call it off for the night?
No.
No. Thank
All right.
you.
Let me leave you guys.
I'm going to work on my Nagios. If I have any issues there, Prof, I'll call you because I did try to work on it